What's going on, my lovelies? It's Kyle here. I want to talk about toxicities today. Deliver a little message, perhaps a reminder to you that whatever toxic influences in our life, whatever shape, form they may take, whether it's a person, an activity, a behavior, a place that has a toxic influence on us, in order for us to heal ourselves, in order for us to change our behaviors, to change the dynamic and relationship with this toxicity, whatever it may be, the first step we need to do to more effectively change our relationship to this toxicity and hopefully get to a point where it's no longer toxic, where it no longer negatively affects us or harms us anymore. The first step we need to take is to distance ourselves from this toxicity. And here's why. Say there's somebody in your life, most of us have a person in our life that is undoubtedly a toxic, harmful, negative influence upon us in some way, shape, or form. Now, there's many situations in which we can physically distance ourselves. And if you can physically distance yourself from this toxicity, from this person, from this activity, from this place or this behavior, that should be the first step you take. That should be the first form of distance that you take in order to change yourself, to change your behaviors, in order to heal yourself in relation to this toxicity. In the space that we take, ideally distance-wise, will allow us to escape this toxicity's influence. They're not around us. We don't have to fight that influence all the time. We're able to focus on our own thought patterns, our own behaviors, our own relationship with that toxicity, and the amount of power that it has over us, the amount of influence it has over us. And that distance will allow you to go inward in order to change yourself, in order to develop new patterns, to set those healthier patterns in stone, so that when the day comes, if the day comes, if you would like to re-engage, close the distance again, when you come back to that once toxicity, it might not be a toxicity anymore. It might not have a serious negative influence over you anymore. Your patterns might be so different, so changed, and so healthy in relation to that initial toxicity that it no longer affects you in that manner. But in order to change ourselves effectively, somewhat hastefully, we need to distance ourselves. We should. It's possible that you can change in the midst of being around that toxicity all the time. But let's be honest. It is very, very, very difficult. And in some cases, we don't have a choice. We need to distance ourselves. That is going to be the only thing that allows us to change our patterns and our behaviors. So first things first, if you have a toxicity in your life, you need to go through your life. You need to see what behaviors are serious toxicities, what people are serious toxicities, what places do I visit or places I go, whether it might be a bar, a gym, some place with some form of culture or influence over us that might have a negative toxic effect on us. You need to go through your life. You need to identify those toxicities and try to focus on the most prominent ones, the ones that affect you the most in a negative way. That's the first step. You have to go through your life. You have to identify the toxicities. Ideally, if you can, distance yourself physically from that toxicity. Change your patterns and your behaviors. If you want to, you can re-engage. You can close the distance. You might not have to be so physically separate from that toxicity. Or perhaps you realize, oh, that actually sucked. I don't want that in my life anymore. My life is so much better. There's no need for me to re-engage. There's no need for me to bring that back in my life. And if that's the choice, keep that distance. And if you want to, cut it out completely. Now I want to change the direction here. Some of us, in relation to certain toxicities, are not able to physically distance ourselves from them. And if that's the case, say it is a family member, say it is a roommate, say it is a coworker, say it is a co-parent that you're no longer with, but you're kind of stuck with them, at least for the time being. If you can't create that physical distance, try your best to create it still. But beyond that, try to create distance that isn't directly physical, right? We can create emotional distance. We can create psychic distance, the psyche, the mind. We can create distance between that person, that thing, whatever it may be, to where we don't take it as seriously, to where we're not as emotional. We don't think about them as much. We don't give that person, that thing, that activity nearly as much time and energy as we used to. We purposefully will put up boundaries, non-physical boundaries between us and that thing. If they cannot leave our lives, you're able to still do that. And nonetheless, if you're trying to minimize the negative impact on this toxicity in your life, or you're trying to get rid of it altogether, have it not be a toxic influence in some way, shape, or form, you're going to have to distance yourself. It might be for a week, might be for a month, might be for a year, a decade. You get the point. That's going to be up to you. You need to check in with yourself. You need to see whether or not it's worth re-engaging, whether or not you've actually changed your behavior, whether or not this has power over you in some way, shape, or form. But for a moment in time, it is always helpful. It is nearly always beneficial to distance yourself from this toxicity, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be, drinking, alcohol. You might want to distance yourself from going out with friends, from being at bars, going to parties, whatever it may be. It might be smoking cigarettes. It might be some form of addiction. It might be a person. It might be a place in which you have a lot of trauma wrapped up with. A place that brings out very heavy, dense emotions within you. Whatever toxicity this form may take, do your best to distance yourself first, so you may then more effectively heal yourself, change your patterns, and better your life. However way you want to go about that is up to you. You know what's best for you. I'll leave it there. Hope you're having a lovely day wherever you're at in the world. And until next time.